One of the most remarkable phenomena of our time was the bursting into the world of boy wizard Harry Potter.
6 National Movie Awards, 3 BAFTA Film Awards, 12 Academy Award nominations, and an Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema Award. Across all 8 of the films, the Harry Potter films received all of these, but did you know that the whole franchise nearly flopped? You see, before the movie scripts were even made, the Harry Potter film series was already being called an impossible project. I mean, you have a children's book series with an obsessively loyal fanbase, a fierce author who had watched Hollywood gut beloved stories before, and a studio trying to turn these 700-page novels into 2.5-hour films? I mean, how does that even work? Where would you even want to start? In the year 2000, David Heyman introduced J.K. Rowling to Steve Kloves, the American screenwriter Warner Brothers had chosen to adapt her books, and on paper, Kloves was a strong choice. I mean, he's the brain behind The Fabulous Baker Boys, a film that J.K. Rowling herself really liked. However, none of that even mattered the moment Kloves walked right through the door, because J.K. Rowling didn't trust him with her stories. You see, Rowling made it crystal clear that she was not so keen about meeting Steve. She knew that they'd chosen this American guy, and yes, even though he had made one of her favorite films, her first thought was, well, he's American, and he was gonna rip apart my baby. At least, I think those were her exact words. Anyways, Kloves felt the wariness the moment that he sat with Rowling, so he had to try and convince her that he was the man for the job. I mean, this was his dream too. To keep it all together, Kloves told Rowling that Hermione was his favorite character, and that one detail got her. And well, let me just say that it ended up affecting the movies by a lot. Anyways, by the time that the coffee arrived, Rowling's defenses had come down, and she would later admit that she got a bit eased with what he had said. And soon, what started as the most difficult meetups for Rowling became one of the most closest author-screenwriter partnerships the film industry had ever seen. Rowling and Kloves exchanged hundreds of emails and calls over the following decade, with Rowling giving him access to unpublished character details that never even appeared in any of the books. So the foundation had been laid, but where were the actors? Well, let's just say it was a real pain in the ass. With Kloves on board, the next mountain to climb was the casting. Finding Harry Potter was a nationwide search. I mean, thousands of kids auditioned, and besides the long list that the producers had to sift through, Rowling had the final approval. And if she rejected the producers picked, they'd have to start the process all over. And trust me, Rowling is very picky. Let's start with the main man, Harry Potter. David Heyman found Daniel Radcliffe through a West End production of David Copperfield, and Radcliffe was just 11 years old at the time, but when Heyman saw him, he knew that Radcliffe was the chosen one. And when Rowling met Radcliffe, she gave her verdict in 4 words. He looks like Harry. Now, Rupert Grint's road to becoming Ron was a little less conventional. I mean, rather than attending a formal audition, Grint, who was also 11 at the time, sent in a homemade audition video of himself rapping about why he deserved the part. Yeah, you heard that right. And somehow, the video made its way through the production team and became an immediate talking point. When Rowling finally watched it, she gave it a thumbs up, and Grint got the role. And then, of course, our lovely Hermione. At the age of 10, Emma Watson had never acted before her Hermione auditions, and yet she came in multiple times and impressed the production team, including J.K. Rowling.
I really didn't want to do it. No, I'm joking, I'm being sarcastic.
The 3 were eventually screen tested together to check for chemistry, and by August 23rd, 2000, they were officially announced as the film's trio, and that's how we got our Harry Potter characters. Alan Rickman almost never joined. His casting of Snape came with a condition. Rowling privately told him the character's full arc, including the revelation of always, that wouldn't even appear on screen until the final film. At first, Alan Rickman was reluctant to feature in the films, especially since it was the bad guy role. However, he later had a change of heart. Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid was Rowling's personal choice from the beginning, and Richard Harris was handpicked because he was really quiet, just like Dumbledore in the stories. When Harris passed away in October 2002 after the second film, Michael Gambon stepped into the role and carried it through the remaining 6 films. I mean, I didn't even notice the change until I was making this video. But getting the perfect actors doesn't guarantee you any Academy nominations, not to talk of 12 plus 28 BAFTAs. Once the cast was in place, the film faced a far more difficult problem. How do you squeeze over 700 pages into a 2-hour film? I mean, each of Rowling's books was a sprawling, super dense novel, with the later ones running well past 700 pages, yet each one needed to become a film that ran roughly 2.5 hours.
That night, I felt all of the intense pressure of what I was about to do.
There was no way to fit everything into a 2-hour film, meaning that something just had to go. Entire subplots had to be cut, meaning that we never got characters like Peeves the Poltergeist, and we never got a full arc like Spew and the House Elves, and in fact, many of the supporting figures who populated Hogwarts were just completely removed. Cloves and Rowling worked through the problem together, constantly sending emails and script pages faxed directly to set while filming was already underway. Cloves would push on specific scenes and Rowling would always push back, and she had veto power over the scripts, and trust me, she used it to the fullest. And even if the process was collaborative, it was never easy. I mean, some scripts weren't even finished, and some had to be written overnight, or sometimes between scenes on the same shooting day. The biggest issue came with the Deathly Hallows. Cloves had been working on the screenplay, and while he was writing the scripts, it became clear that the final book was impossible to contain in just a single film. The Battle of Hogwarts alone would have required its own movie. By March of 2008, Warner Brothers made it official that the Deathly Hallows would be split into 2 parts, filmed back to back. The production ran from 2000 to 2011. That's 11 years! They used Leavesden Studios, a former airplane factory that Warner Brothers flipped into a permanent Hogwarts campus. The Great Hall and Dumbledore's office were built once, and then expanded and rebuilt until they aged across the next decade. Real UK locations filled the gaps. Gloucester Cathedral was used for Hogwarts corridors, and the Scottish Highlands worked for the landscape. Generally, the producers used over 150 locations in total across the full series. 4 directors rotated through the franchise across those years. Chris Columbus handled the first 2 films and established the warm storybook visuals that we saw in the early Hogwarts. Alfonso Cuarón brought a darker aesthetic to Prisoner of Azkaban in year 3. Mike Newell handled Goblet of Fire, and then David Yates took over from Order of the Phoenix and directed the final 4 films, including both parts of the Deathly Hallows. Yates later described the project as the longest continuous shoot in cinema history, and that's a claim difficult to argue with given the numbers. I mean, just think about it. 4 directors, 8 films, with over a decade of active production. That's definitely worth an Oscar. Meanwhile though, there was another problem. The 3 leads were growing too fast. Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint were 11 years old when they started, and they were 21 when they finished. Their faces and voices had changed, and even their heights too. The costume department had to subtly alter robes and uniforms across every film to account for those changes without breaking continuity. The makeup and prosthetics teams worked day and night to maintain consistency while aging with the actors. And then to make matters even worse, the production team had to follow UK child labor laws. Apparently, the young cast could only work a limited number of hours each day, which meant double crews, on-set tutors, teaching the kids while they were filming. It got so bad that the production schedules had to be rebuilt nearly every week. It was just a lot to handle, really. And the production's ambition was nearly impossible. I mean, over 2,400 crew members worked across the full series, with more than 19,000 individual costumes created. The VFX work was handled by multiple studios, building the creatures and environments that we saw in the series. Dobby and Creature started as puppets before they got digitally enhanced, and as for the dragons, Thestrals, Dementors, and the Patronus charms, the production team used combinations of real models, miniatures, and digital construction. And good lord, the Battle of Hogwarts scene! It required thousands of VFX shots and real explosions and even large-scale set destruction. I mean, the sheer volume of production across all 8 films is what drove the numerous nominations in Harry Potter. But there was a huge personal cost. In January 2009, during production on Deathly Hallows Part 1, Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double David Holmes was injured during a snake fight scene, and boy, it was terrifying. Apparently, the planned explosion and wire work were just all wrong, and in the end, Holmes suffered a spinal injury that left him permanently paralyzed. And this was one of the saddest days in the franchise's history. Indeed, the Harry Potter films had real problems, and overcoming them wasn't easy, but somehow the franchise survived and became one of the best ever produced. At the 2011 BAFTA ceremony at the Royal Opera House, J.K. Rowling, David Heyman, and the cast members, including Rupert Grint and Emma Watson, walked on stage together to accept the Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema Award, and it was the franchise's most significant single award. Across the full series, the films received 6 National Movie Awards, 3 BAFTA Film Awards, 12 Academy Award nominations, and 28 BAFTA nominations, with the wins spread across the visual effects, art direction, costume design, and even the makeup. Sadly though, the series never won Best Picture, and it was never nominated for it either. It's kinda crazy how the Academy keeps expanding its nominations list to include more popular films, and yet Harry Potter remained outside that conversation. I mean, this is a franchise that grossed over $7.7 billion worldwide and sustained a decade of production. Yet, it gets treated like it's no big deal. I mean, come on, even Lord of the Rings won 17 plus awards. For 10 years, audiences watched those actors grow up alongside them. Few franchises have ever even attempted something that ambitious, and even fewer survived it. Harry Potter may have never won Best Picture, but after a decade of filmmaking, it became something much bigger than just the awards. It became a generation. But while fans still celebrate the original films, the next chapter is already causing controversy. HBO's Harry Potter remake hasn't even released yet, and somehow people already hate it. So, if you want to know why the internet is turning against the reboot before it even begins, check out this video right here.